She's the witch who is more good than Glinda. But when she's wicked, oh, it's so splendor. And he loves a good roll in the hay, while curiously not needing a costume to resemble Anton LaVey. Together, they bid you a very good evening. And welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow, All Hallows Eve Spooktacular. Featuring John and Stacey Edwards of ParanormalSideshow.com. And hello and welcome to the All Hallows Eve Spooktacular. I thought that maybe we should give a special thanks to our guy who dropped in there to do the intro.
Yes.
Very bad Saturday morning TV show version of Dracula.
It was so nice of him.
Yeah. It's been a long time since we've seen him. He was available on a lot of cartoons of not like Scooby-Doo, but like Pooby Foo, the one that had the Scooby-Doo music.
Right, and the same number
and all the
kids.
voices, remember?
Yeah,
it actually had the voices. I mean, we had like Goober and the Ghost Chasers, and there was a few others, though, that were very bizarre because obviously these voice workers, these voice actors really just needed a paycheck.
Right.
So they're like, well, look, we're going to
just turn down a job.
We appreciate the fact that you play Fred, and, you know, we got this idea. Now, it's not exactly Scooby-Doo, but... you know, it's kind of Scooby-Doo.
Right.
And we play the music. So, yeah, that Dracula from there did our intro. So it was very nice. But hey, nice. All Hallows Eve.
Yes.
Yes.
Favorite time of year.
Yes, we were almost there. And it just makes me feel creepy. Very creepy, actually. I feel creepy all over. And I love it.
Yes, well, that could have something to do with the full moon.
It could. The full moon, damn you full moon. We just went through it.
It was so pretty though.
It was a beautiful hunter's moon. It very much was. But the problem is of me turning into the werewolf. Werewolf? Werewolf.
Werewolf.
What are you doing? I thought you wanted me to. Yeah, young Frankenstein. Damn you, young Frankenstein. But yeah, it was a very strange last few days, as it always is with a full moon. But when you've got a full moon in late October, it's a little bit different, a little bit creepier, and it feels a little bit better with that crisp air.
Right.
Not quite as crisp as Maine was. Man, I really missed Maine until this week. I missed it every day. My memories were popping up. I was like, oh my God, do I miss it? I really want to go back. I actually thought about just, you know, taking our time machine and going back because it's so beautiful.
Right.
And I've yet to see a leaf turn colors down here.
Right.
I believe they're all just going to shake off. And
I think so.
Without any colors.
Like green to brown on the ground.
Yeah. And those miserable bastards up in Maine keep sending me pictures of like, oh, look, we went for a drive to look at the leaves, you know.
Look how pretty.
But you know what they're sending me now?
What's that?
Pictures of snow.
Of course. And we knew this would happen.
Tons of snow. Keep your snow.
That's right.
It's okay.
We're going to go trick-or-treating without our coats on.
I am now officially okay with Dixie. I have found my inner Dixie boy. And I am back in the land of Dixie.
Right.
So now back to what the real feature is here, right? This wouldn't be an All Hallows Eve Spooktacular,
right,
without talking about a little Halloween stuff.
Of course.
So we went to go see Halloween.
We did.
Yes, the new Halloween. And Cody, it was his second time seeing it.
Yes.
My God.
It's good.
What a great movie. It was great. It was absolutely great. You looking at me and saying good reminded me of Columbia and Rocky Horror. Going, he's okay. Okay. I think we could do better than that. Yeah, no, it was fantastic. And I think some of the things that make Blumhouse's version of Halloween so spectacular was it was a direct sequel to the first movie. So they got rid of all the nonsense in between, right?
Right.
And whenever that happens, because after, 30 years or so, it gets a little convoluted with everybody's ideas.
Right.
But they've also had John Carpenter, the mastermind behind the original, just part of it. And he also, he produced and he helped come up with story ideas, and even the original score. So it was just, and the story was just so good. It was just a really good story. I don't want to give anything about the movie away because I want you to go see it.
Right.
It's really worth your time to go see the movie.
I agree.
It's funny though because when I see John Carpenter's name, I think about something in particular from my childhood.
What's that?
So, as a kid, living in the podunk town we live in.
Right.
Okay. Our movie theater, and of course it was a long time ago, so all movie theaters probably just showed like the still slides, you know, like Help Wanted, and then they would show the slide showing, you know, popcorn and drink,
right,
you know, available in your concessions. Then they would show this other slide, but every now and then they would show a random movie advertisement slide.
Right.
But because we lived in Appalachia, it would show like movies from 4 years ago.
Not the most current up-to-date thing.
It would be some kind of slide that would pop in there and be like Mary Poppins, you know, and it would just be something like that. Well, I remember for years, there would be John Carpenter's The Thing.
Right.
Okay. So it just looked like John Carpenter's Thing when it popped up. And it was basically just the words. I can see the logo now.
Right.
And my dad, my dad has the worst dad humor of any dad ever. And it's like the embarrassment of the dad humor.
Right.
It's not funny. It's just sad. And I tell him the same thing, and so does the kid. You know, Cody's the same way with him. It's like he's trying to be funny,
right?
But it's like half embarrassing because it's something that other people can hear. So every time that thing would pop up, he would be like, "There's John Carpenter's Thing," you know, and it's just like. You giggle the first time
to be polite,
maybe, you know, and it's fine. I get it. You know, I have dad humor. I have a lot of dad humor.
You do have dad humor.
And sometimes it's not funny, you know, sometimes it's not funny, but that's John Carpenter. I always will, you know, put up with seeing the John Carpenter's Thing. That's all I could ever. I can't even watch the movie. I can't even watch the movie. Like I seen the movie one time,
right? When
I was a kid, it bored me to tears. I know people are going to be like,
"Well, you were a kid,"
but it did at the time, you know. But maybe I should go back and revisit it.
Probably,
you know. I'm speaking of movies, I did make a mistake.
You did.
So it's that time of the show. Where I hope this is not a regular bit.
Right.
Where I make mistakes and have to go back. And
right.
I do want to give Ryan Atkins a nod for originally pointing it out.
Right.
And then me not making him part of the contest to point out what the mistake was. And Jeff Carter actually got it pretty quickly. And we actually had 3 winners overall of the ones who pointed out the mistake.
Right.
Okay. So that's not a bad ratio considering, you know, because I was going to do a drawing anyway.
Right.
And pull out the ones but I had a lot of people send in for what they thought were mistakes, but I didn't have the heart to tell them those were not mistakes. So if you're not getting a prize pack, know this, you're wrong. So I'm just going to say it nicely so I don't have to send it in a message. The rest of you freeloaders are going to get a prize pack when I get around to sending it to you. So just bear with me on it. It's not that I'm very happy about making a mistake, but do you want to tell them what the mistake was, my dear?
Yes, and it was a really quick mistake. Like I didn't even catch it, not even when I edited. So you were just talking.
It's one of my favorite movies.
And you were on one of your rants, you know, and you were talking about the movies. We're doing the top 10 list. And you said something, I don't know exactly how you said it, but you talked about the Invisible Man.
I did.
And you said that.
Yes. I said that Lon Chaney Jr. was the Invisible Man. Now let me just stop before you go any further.
Right.
Okay. So, Rocky Horror Picture Show was one of our favorite movies. Now, if I didn't know who the Invisible Man was, I would know from the damn song, you know, about Claude Raisby and the Invisible Man. Okay, listen. I know Claude Rains is the Invisible Man.
It's one of your favorite movies.
It is. It really is. But the funny thing is, one of my favorite, my favorite performance out of Universal movies is Lon Chaney Jr. When he's freaking out about people getting away from him as the Wolfman.
Right. And I think that's what you were thinking about when you were talking, and it all kind of just mushed together, and you just said it really fast, and we didn't catch it.
Obviously, you wouldn't have to freak out and tell people to get away because you were about to turn invisible.
Exactly.
You know? It's like, oh my God, you gotta go. There it goes, my arm's gone. Holy God, are you okay, man? Are you okay? Oh, not though, in my leg. Oh, there's my willy. Oh, are you still okay? How does it look seeing half a man? Oh, it's really terrible. Actually, only half my willy's gone. Yes, it was much. There was another half there. That's what I tell all the girls. Oh God, it's gone now. You know, so I don't know why my Scottish Lon Chaney or whatever that accent, but yeah, no, it was the overacting in The Wolfman by Lon Chaney. Right. That's what I love about it is it's so. When that was at a time period when there was a lot of like going from stage to film, you know? So on the stage, you have to worry about the bloke up in the very top, you know? And it's kind of like in pro wrestling. When we throw a punch, we overextend backwards.
Right, so people can tell what you're doing.
Yeah, overswing the punch so the guy up in the very top can see the punch, right?
Right.
It was that kind of acting. It's just like, you know, oh, you gotta go. You can't be around. You gotta believe me. You have to believe. And I love that stuff. I love the screams. Like, I love the screams in bars, the pub scenes and all that stuff. Beautiful stuff. Nowhere near as good as Hammer Horror, but still, yeah. Beautiful stuff. And I love the movies because I'm a human being. Right. So I did make the mistake. It's real. Prize packs, will be in the mail soon. Thanks so much for playing. You guys are awesome for pointing out something. Then
people are gonna be listening really closely to all our episodes now.
Yeah, I don't. Hey, good luck. Good luck. We don't make. Everybody makes mistakes. Yes. So something else really cool. On the same vein as the Halloween movie,
right?
There has been a very creepy Netflix show.
Yes.
Now, I avoided it at first because I hate when. And it's funny because this is given to my kids as well. I can't stand when everybody talks about something.
Right.
Like I can't, if everybody is saying, oh, it's so creepy. It's so creepy, Biffy.
To this day, I have not seen Titanic.
Yeah, me either.
The hype around it was ridiculous.
Yeah, we were dating.
It's not like we didn't know what was going to happen. Yeah, we wouldn't. No surprise, the boat sinks.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't even go see it.
I was like, I'm not going to see it.
No, we were together.
And then eventually it was just like, it's done. Nobody's seeing that movie now.
Cares.
So
yeah, no, we've never seen Titanic, and it was just because of all the people that did see it.
I mean, maybe it was just our group and how much they hyped it and was like, oh, you have to see this. But
you got to think at the time, all we did was hang out with indie bands.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like it's everything I've done has always been independent. So it's always been like you and I, indie filmmakers. Right. We call it what you will. Indie music, independent wrestling. Right. It's just something that we've always, we bought the region free DVD players back before it was cool. And we like our independent anything really and low budget and stuff like that.
Right. So we weren't exactly going to watch this at first because there was so much hype around it, but we caved in because Hill House is one of our favorite, scary things. Basically,
The Haunting of Hill House, based on the 1959 Gothic horror novel by Shirley Jackson of the same title. It's had two films. The first was a faithful, somewhat adaptation in 1963 called The Haunting. And then there was the remake of The Haunting in 1999, which was not quite as faithful of an adaptation to Shirley Jackson's novel. But it's a movie that we love nonetheless because we love silly, stupid movies, and especially with haunted houses and stuff. So it can be like as silly as if you just like watching Hallmark movies, Raja, And just because of the mind numbingness of the love and the plot and everything,
the predictability.
Stacy and I sometimes like horror movies like that, where hey, it's a haunted house with ghost. Little suspense, a little this, a little that, and The Haunting is kind of that kind of movie,
right?
But oh my God, all right, The Haunting of Hill House, the TV series on Netflix. And go out of your way to watch it.
Very good.
Just go out of your way to watch it. We absolutely give it two thumbs up. It's awesome, and I can't say enough good things about it. Honestly, it's a really good series that you won't be able to watch just one episode.
Right. Well, it's really interesting. Like the way they present the story is very interesting, where they go back and forth from then and now.
Yeah.
So and it makes it. I don't know. I really like it.
Yeah, it's really cool. And it's probably the best adaptation of the novel other than Scary Movie 2.
Well, it's funny.
Which the parody of Scary Movie 2 will always be my favorite parody movie.
Yes, that one's my favorite. But I actually did have this story. I'll just pull it out here because it was about the Netflix show, The Haunting of Hill House, since we're talking about it. And it actually is just a story how the cast was really left unsettled after filming the show because it was so creepy. And because, every day they were doing the same, being in that situation and making it creepy. And eventually I think one of the actors said that they started seeing something sitting on the end of their bed. But they were just so immersed in the whole haunted, haunted house scenario. And another one was like, I never really saw anything, but it really messed with their heads.
Yeah, and
just being in that situation.
You get that a lot when, these kind of things, when you film these kind of things. Funny enough, when we went to go see the Halloween movie, it was funny because we went to, the theater to see it. And it used to be the premiere theater in the area. And now it's like fourth. But we still like it. And we went there and got our popcorn and everything. And the guy's like, there's no heat in the theater. And it's like, excuse me? There was a fire last night on the heater. And it's very strange. It's super cold in there.
He's like, it was a suspicious fire.
Yeah.
Just 2 theaters, but that's one of them.
Yeah. And it's like, all right, awesome. But it was really kind of creepy, it was like a weird feeling going in and seeing a horror movie in there and having that.
Yeah.
But, that's the kind of stuff we like at the same time. Very cool. Also, speaking of All Hallows Eve, Samhain, however you want to say it. There's so many names, but it's all just that naughty night where the veil is so thin and you're going to have to wear the mask so the ghosts don't recognize you.
Exactly.
Or they'll get you. Because they're going to get you. You know something else that's going to get you on Halloween?
What's that?
Bad candy.
Yes.
And good candy.
Yes. Lots of good candy.
Stacy is a 100,000% Halloween loving little girl. Now, let me present this to you correctly. Now, she is creepy and spooky and all the things we tell you she is, but she is also that sweet little girl with the pigtails that would have the little mask that she couldn't breathe in, and her little plastic Halloween costume that came from the local Kmart. And she would be out with her bag and not her pumpkin because she wanted more candy. And
a pillowcase. And we'll just get it right. I took a pillowcase.
And getting as much candy as she could, staying as long as she could out doing it, and going everywhere they would possibly allow her to go to get all the candy she could.
Yes.
So, did you also trade candy with people?
My sister.
Okay. Did your sister steal candy from you?
No. We always had enough that and we didn't really like the same things really, so we would just trade back and forth.
That's shocking.
Yeah.
That's so shocking. No, it's if there was ever a sister that it's funny because I believe that all the bullies become the sweet ones later on because she's got the sweetest sister, but every now and then you see this PTSD go across Stacy's face. I'll be talking about something like a Christmas gift or something, and you'll see this little flash. I'll be like, "Is everything okay?" No, it's fine. It's fine. So we wanted to do something. Stacy and I got together. And not in a hashtag mommy daddy time kind of way, but in a hashtag top 10 list kind of way.
Yes, gotta have a top 10.
And we got the All Hallows Eve all-time greatest Halloween candies.
Yes.
Which do you like to get?
Things that you can get in your Halloween bucket when you go trick-or-treating.
As according to ParanormalSatcher.com.
Right. Now, my favorites may not be everybody else's favorites. I very much like the classic candy.
Yeah.
Like very classic candy. But I love sixlets. And some people don't like them. They think they're gross. But I would eat sixlets until I blew up. They're just these little round chocolate candies. They're kind of like M&M knockoffs because they're candy shell with chocolate in the middle. But for some reason, they're so good. It's like the candy shell's just thick enough, and there's just a little bit of chocolate in the middle. Oh, I love those things.
Well, it's very strange because when we were coming up with the list, I tried very hard to remember those, and I don't remember them. Obviously, I never ate them.
No, I eat them. I steal them all. Like if they come in the candy,
maybe I've just never seen them.
Confiscate them.
That's interesting. So on this list, we obviously have children, and so we were children until we had children. I think we were so young when we had children. We were trick or treating the year before we had kids. So Stacy and I have had a nonstop stretch of trick or treating since we were one.
Right.
You know, instead of going with I think we went with our Halloween costumes before. This time we wanted to do the top 10 list, and we both had 50% into this. And so here's what we came up with. Number 10.
And this is the top 10 best Halloween candy.
Top 10 best as according to
us.
ParanormalSatcher.com.
Yes. Okay.
That'd be us.
Yes.
Number 10, gumballs.
I love gumballs.
Yes.
I love gum. And when it can come in a little sugary ball, that's with a crunchy outside, love that. I
would put Jawbreakers and would you put Fireballs in there as well? Do you like Fireballs? I hate Fireballs.
No, because they burn my mouth. I mean, I'll eat them because once the hot's gone, they taste good. But I really do like Jawbreakers. Anything, you can just sugary, sweet.
I'm with you though. I just like gumballs. Gumballs is really great.
Yes, it has to be the ball though. You can't get like that little flat.
Do you like getting bazooka gum?
No, because it's usually hard.
Okay.
Hard as a rock.
Yeah, you know what's hard as a rock?
What's that?
The gum in the back of baseball cards.
Yes, but if you suck on it for a while, it softens up, and then you can chew it.
There's not many things like that. Number 9 is popcorn balls. Now this is one you put on the list. Yes, this is a John creation, and it's sort of a cry for help. Make me popcorn balls. Everybody that made me popcorn balls is dead.
Can I ask you a question?
Please have some popcorn balls.
How do you stick the popcorn together into the ball shape?
If I knew that, I would be my own grandmother.
I mean,
I don't know.
You have to put something in there to make it stick. Like
it's popcorn, a lost art.
Popcorn doesn't just stay in a ball shape.
God, they're good. God, they're good.
I'll have to look that up.
I love caramel. God almighty. Anyway, number 8, fresh. And let me emphasize, fresh Tootsie Rolls.
Love Tootsie Rolls when they're soft.
Tootsie Rolls. Tootsie Rolls. Man, I'm going to have a cheat day on Halloween now. Number 7, Hershey Minis.
Oh, mini candy bars. Yes. Yum.
Any of them except for one.
Which one?
Oh, come on.
The Mr. Good Bar?
Of course, the Mr. Good Bar.
I like the Mr. Good Bars.
Nobody likes Mr. Good Bar.
I'm the one that eats them out of our little bags of Hershey
You eat them
miniatures.
because it's all that's left when you get there. Maybe you've told yourself, you're lying to yourself that, I like these.
They're not
There's
bad.
something foul about the chocolate of a Mr. Good Bar. It has nothing to do with the peanut. It's something foul and off.
It's the same chocolate.
No, it's not. It tastes different. If that tasted like Hershey's chocolate,
right,
it would be okay. It doesn't. It tastes like somebody ate Hershey's chocolate 3 days ago and then we found it in a toilet.
Maybe it has something to do with the way they get the peanuts in there.
Yeah, maybe it is. It is. I'm telling you, it is an abomination. It is foul and it's heresy.
All
right. So anyway, speaking of heresy, number 6 is sixlets.
Love sixlets. They're my favorite. I'm glad they made the list.
Yes, they made the list.
I put them on the list.
Yes, I put them at number 6 because they're sixlets. Yes, and that's just how I am. Number 5 is another Stacy creation, Nerds.
Love Nerds.
Yes, you do. I think Nerds is the reason I have to pay such a high dental bill.
Probably.
Is the nerd love that you have. Number 4 is Kit Kats.
Love Kit Kats.
It can be mini. It can be big. However, it's Kit Kats. Number 3 is Smarties.
Gotta have the Smarties.
Or as Ariana called them for 5 years.
Farties.
Which we would buy her all kinds of Smarties just so we could hear her go, can I have a farty?
I think she thought she was saying smarty.
Yes,
but it was just coming out as farty. She was pretty young.
It was an impediment I wish had never got better. Like, if I could have had that at 30 years old, it's like, hey, Ariana, I can't remember what I want right now. It's a little candy. It's wrapped in plastic. What is it? A farty? Yes, a farty. Because she'll have that deep voice when she's 30.
She will.
Yeah. It's number 2, Reese cups. Yeah.
Love Reese cups.
Oh, yeah.
Gotta chill them.
Oh, you know what I like best?
What?
The small ones.
You like the small ones?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's just a perfect, you talk about ratios.
I like it when they're individually wrapped and you take like 6 of them, because when you have a big Reese cup and it comes with 2 cups, you're like, oh, that's all I need. But when you have the individual ones, you can get like 6 or 7. You're like, oh, it's just one each.
The ratio
not a big deal.
The ratio isn't right on the big ones.
You don't think so?
No. In the middle of it gets too peanut buttery.
So not enough chocolate.
Yeah.
So the small ones are good for you.
The small ones are really good because number 1, I eat around the edge. All the little crown points. Mm-hmm. I nibble the crown points off. Mm-hmm. And then I try to unleash the top of it, the top chocolate circle, in my mouth without it breaking. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of it goes in because I lose my patience. But yes, I love taking the crown points off.
Oh, that's funny.
Number one,
best Halloween candy you can get when you trick or treat. Full-size candy bars.
Absolutely.
Yes. Now, this is one thing I'm going to miss about Maine, because there's one house in our neighborhood, and that woman gave away full-size candy bars. I swear, I think we went by her house twice last year. Full-size candy.
That's when you know that somebody doesn't want their house to be toilet papered. Because that lady is popular with children and adults alike.
Yes.
I mean, you cannot have a better home security system.
No.
Because all the vagrant kids are going to watch your damn house like a hawk.
Oh, what?
Yeah. Oh, Mrs. Edwards gives out full-size candy bars.
Here's a full-size Snickers.
Oh.
This will take you a while to eat. Take your rotten eggs down the road.
Yeah. let's go over to that house. Yeah. We should give out full-size candy bars.
We should. You can buy those big boxes of full-size candy.
Oh my God. Definitely number 1. It's hard to beat the full-size candy bars.
It is.
It's because it's like you got a treasure, and you're expecting something little, and somebody just blows your mind. It's like kindness is written all over their face.
Yes.
All right, but as with balance in the universe, the yin and yang of it all,
right?
There has to be, if there is a 10 best,
right?
There would, have to be a 10 worst.
Exactly. And there are.
There
are 10 worst.
So with our 10 worst, we had a problem coming up with just 10.
Yes.
We had to combine.
We combined a few.
And knock them off the list because there's some 10 raunchy candies out there.
And this list is actually things that we have gotten or our kids have gotten.
Oh, this is
while
real.
Trick-or-treating.
This is real.
Yes.
This is a shoot. This isn't imaginary.
No, this is real stuff that they've gotten.
And this is just according to paranormalsatcher.com. So this might not be, you might love one of these. If one of these are on your top list, reach out to us and let us know. We know you're going to, and we encourage it and love it. In fact, it's the highlight of my week when I'm having a hard day at work and I get like 4, 5 notifications on first thing in the morning on Facebook. I know somebody's out there also working and driving and listening, and to get something, like, hey, that's my favorite candy of all time. My dad owned a company or whatever. I can't wait to see what we get. And the bigger the show gets, we got hundreds of thousands of downloads. Obviously, you're going to have some people that just don't agree.
Absolutely.
But I think this is a universal agreement. Personally, I believe this is the list.
Yes,
I believe that other websites need to probably cite paranormalsatcher.com next year
with the list
and say, look, this is the ultimate list. So number 10, Bible tracts.
Yes.
This one.
This is very prevalent in our area.
So this one has happened to me several times. And if you don't know what we're talking about, I'll let Stacy explain.
So this is when you go to a house, you knock on the door, and they give you a little tract about how to be saved and why you shouldn't celebrate Halloween.
Yes.
On Halloween.
And as far as the Bible tracts, I will say the artwork is pretty amazing.
It is.
Like the Bible tracts, they're pretty amazing. That's The artwork's pretty terrifying. Now, Stacy's parents, well, they used to.
Yes, they used to give Bible tracts out.
So
all the
they
time.
came to stay with us back in the early days of our dating, our marriage. In the early days of our marriage, we were living in Charlotte. I'll never forget this. And at the time, I still drank. Stacy still drank. So we had a couple of bottles of vodka in the freezer because we like to freeze it or try to keep it cold.
Well, we keep it really cold. We just put it in the freezer and it would stay really cold.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like we drank constantly. We just had it there for,
so
at night.
We just had it there for when we needed it. And I think we had some in a drawer somewhere. Anyway, their stay was fine.
Right. We even put it away when they came to stay. We didn't drink. We just put it when, they don't like that stuff. So we put it up.
Yeah. Their stay was fine. And after they left, we went to go get the vodka one day. And underneath the vodka was a Bible tract in my sock drawer.
They were everywhere.
Was a Bible tract. Yeah, they were everywhere. They were everywhere.
It was like some kind of Bible voodoo. Like they thought maybe if they hid them all over the house, it would somehow osmosis into our brains.
So, and there is nothing, absolutely, this is not an attack on faith or anything like that because we have our own. It's nothing like that. It
was just funny.
It's the comedy of being a kid and going out all excited for trick-or-treating and somebody pooping on that.
Yes.
I've never been a fan of that. There's a time and place.
My parents were those people. I don't think they do that anymore. They did do that at one point in time. Now, they don't celebrate Halloween, obviously. But they did do the tract thing. They used to carry Bible tracts with them in their cars. They might still do that. They leave them on tables with their tips and they stick them in places in the grocery store. And I mean, just like if they bought a newspaper out of a newspaper box, they're the ones that put the tract in there with the next newspaper.
Wow.
So, yeah. So don't give those out on Halloween. Just don't celebrate. Just don't open your door.
It's more and more explains why you were such a wild kid. Like I should really thank them because if it hadn't been for them, I may not have ever met you.
All right. Well, anyway. Number 9.
So number 9 is disgusting. It is just, it could be a number 1. Any of these could be number 1s. Mallow cups.
Oh, yuck. I think I just got shivers just when you said it.
I don't know why. And again, this is going to, like the guy who works in the Mallow Cup factory, wherever that is, it's probably somewhere in Pennsylvania.
Probably.
It's not in Hershey, but it's like in Hearsay. Pennsylvania. It's like, here at the Mallow Cup Corporation, our sales have been steadily declining since 1913.
I mean, isn't it just like a big wad of marshmallow with dark chocolate on it?
I think they make,
cup shape.
I think they make Mallow Cups for like stores like Roses.
Probably.
I don't know if anybody out there has a Roses, but in this area everybody has like the old chain that used to have nice stuff, but now looks like a bomb went off in it.
Right.
And they have like overruns now, and they have like the nasty. They
still have the same stock they had like back in the 70s.
Yeah, back when you were a kid, right now they have like toys from the first X-Men movie in the 90s, stuff like that. Yeah, they have Mallow cups there.
Yes.
So, Number 8, any nasty gummy contraption that they've gummied everything, but like the Krabby Patty packs.
Yeah, and like the Halloween themed, like gummy eyeballs and gummy vampire teeth, all that nasty gummy stuff.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah. It's like the guy who comes in every year and the only time at work that he really makes a big impact is when he comes in with that nasty baggie. And do you know what I'm talking about? It's around this time of year. You're going to have Hank who works in your office or works in your restaurant or works in your factory or works wherever. Hank's going to come in this time of year and he's going to be like, I made jerky. That's cool, Hank. Wow, I didn't know you still worked here. I made jerky. What kind of jerky is it? Deer. Is it? Is it deer jerky? You love deer jerky. Everybody loves deer jerky. I got a jerky maker, and I made the jerky. And see, maybe it's again prevalent in this area.
Possibly.
But no, I went to Maine, and it was prevalent there too.
They had jerky
and there's
there
always
too?
The Hank guy. There's always the guy who comes in, and then it's like that thing. Like you think women are bad, like old ladies when they give you something they've made and they look at you like, don't you want to try it? You know, it's nowhere near as bad as this guy. Because this guy does one thing all year. It has to make that jerky. And
I don't like jerky anyway.
It's like the mystery though. Like I don't trust him enough because it's like every time I've ever tried it, it smells like kerosene and deer scent, which is deer piss. You know, it's just like, that smells good, buddy. But I just ate. Oddly enough, I just had a barbecue just a few minutes ago, and I ate a whole bag of jerky as well.
Right.
So wow. Trying to eat a lot of carbs right now. This would go against that. So yeah. So anyway, that falls in that nasty gummy Krabby Patty thing.
Right.
Number 7, licorice.
Oh, black licorice.
Don't even have to say anything else.
Ugh.
Licorice. You know what's something that looks really good to me?
What's that?
I fall for it about once a year. Twizzlers.
Yes.
Twizzlers are the devil because they look like, that's a good candy. Look how strawberry colored and soft it looks.
Right.
Let me squeeze it. Oh, it's kind of soft. And then you stick it in your mouth and it's all over.
Not a Twizzler fan. Huh?
Not a Twizzler fan.
I don't like anything that's so sticky it hurts your teeth.
It's like that big girl at the bar that has a really pretty face. It seems like a really good idea about 1:30 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
And yeah.
We should continue with the list.
Licorice. Number 6, circus peanuts.
Oh, ew, and ew. Gross.
Yeah. So if you've never had a circus peanut, God help you.
So spongy orange candies that they stamp to look like peanuts, but it's really a sponge, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what it is.
I'm pretty sure that circus peanuts were originally created in a Nazi lab as a contraceptive and somehow made their way.
Somebody just ate one day and they were like, oh, that's kind of good.
Yeah. And so kind of good is emphasis on kind of. So, oh God, we should make a video where we eat every one of these.
Oh, ew. Okay.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Except
the Bible track. I'm not eating that.
You have to read it though.
Okay.
I got to read it, and then I'm gonna have to see if it like changes you at all. Number 5. This is kind of specific, but it's happened to us with the kids. A can of Sam's Club soda or cola. A can of Sam's Club cola.
Right.
In your bag. To carry around.
Yes, that did happen. They were trick-or-treating one year, and I guess they went to a house and someone must have forgot that it was Halloween because they were just giving out whatever was in their fridge, and now the kids each got a can of soda. It was funny. I'm pretty sure they dumped those on the way.
Yeah. Which if you're giving out cola, what is wrong with you? You need to rethink your life and go buy some damn candy. The number 4, old-fashioned candy.
Oh,
now this is where we're going to get some heat.
Yes, okay. Probably.
There's going to be some passionate people on here that remembers,
And this one was hard. We kind of had to lump it all together because we were naming very specific candies, and we're like, well, those are all kind of old school. I think even the circus peanuts are a little bit old school, but they deserve their own number.
You can give some examples.
But we're talking about like those little candies that old people give you, like a bit of honey, where it's more like a bit of crap with sesame seeds on it. It's not candy. I don't know what that is.
Right.
Or like those little Mary Jane candies. They're like shoe leather. I think they're supposed to be caramel or something, but you can't bite them. I don't know what they are. Yeah. Or I mean, just hard candy, any kind of like old timey.
Oh yeah, the stuff that used to just sit out in the dish all the time, right. And it's perfectly okay, even though you haven't been to your grandmother's from 2 years, and you show up and it's the same stuff that's kind of stuck to all the other ones, and they're like, right. Oh no, it doesn't go bad.
Yeah, it's hard.
Does
candy.
it not? Do the flies and ants help it stay fresh?
It's the kind of candy they just keep year after year when they can't give it away. They just keep recycling.
I question any candy that can sit out, what that does in my stomach. It's stuff like that bothers me. Number 3, stale Tootsie Rolls.
Yes, as opposed to the fresh ones
that
are amazing. The stale ones, as soon as you put them in your mouth, you're breaking teeth.
Yeah.
You can't bend them at all.
And the older I get, the worse those suck.
Yes.
Because they get stuck somewhere I can't get to. And then I try to get it and my jaw locks up and my eye falls out on my cheek and everything else. Yeah. Stale Tootsie Rolls. Uh-huh. If I ever figure out who gave me the Stale Tootsie Rolls, you talk about a bad day for you. Number 2, homemade anything except popcorn balls.
Those are exempt.
Yes. But I actually had this happen. There was a lady in my neighborhood growing up who would have brownie dishes. Mm-hmm. She would hold the pan out and would actually have a little spatula or just pick one up and drop it in your bag without a paper towel. She would drop a brownie, like little fudge pieces and stuff, like little fudge candies.
Right.
And just drop them in there. And like the other kids, like I've always felt like I wasn't at the right time period because the other kids would all be like, hey, gee, thank you, Mrs. Andrews, and all this stuff. And I'm just like, okay. And I just turn around, like, what's wrong with him? Oh, that's just that Edwards kid. He's a Satanist, He doesn't like fudge, No, I'm just worried where it's been packed.
Right, exactly.
Anyway, you got to stay away from the homemade stuff. That's where candies, apples, and razor blades, homemade stuff, especially in this day and time.
Yes.
You might have the best of intentions and it might be some awesome stuff. It might be Rice Krispie treats. Don't give Rice Krispie treats that you've made. Okay? Just don't. I know that it seems like you just got your Pampered Chef party done.
Right.
You're feeling pretty good. You just made the last payment on your townhouse. You're part of the board of directors. You tell people when they're going to have to pay a fine for their dog pissing in the yard or their grass being too high. And you made some wonderful Rice Krispie treats to give all the trick-or-treaters. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Don't. Just buy it. Just go buy something and give it out.
Something that's wrapped individually.
Feed that to your kids, your own kids. Not my kids.
I like Rice Krispie treats. I think I'm going to make some.
Yeah, there you go. I'm telling you.
Said that, but I'm going to keep them for myself.
Well, we have a number 1, and as starting with this tradition, we have a lot of top 10 lists. I would like you to read the number 1. I think you know what the number 1 is.
Okay, the number 1 worst thing to get on Halloween. Fruit. Yes.
Oh my God.
Healthy fruit.
I mean, there's a lot of healthy things that can be lumped in here. I've literally had celery given to me.
Yes. Oh, toothbrushes. Yeah, I mean, what kind of message are you sending there? Kids know they have candy.
Unless you're actually a dentist.
Right.
And you're giving cool toothbrushes away.
Or toothbrushes with the candy, maybe.
Yeah, like, here, kids, knock yourself out, and here's a toothbrush.
Yeah, for when you're done.
Here's a business card. Tell your family to come see me, huh?
It's a great time of year for me.
Yeah.
There you go.
I promise I won't put you under and grope you. Sorry. Maybe that's just our local dentist. The dentist that I went to growing up got in trouble for that.
Oh, I see.
Back in the good old days of laughing gas.
I'm sorry, John has a little PTSD about dentists. We don't mean anything.
Yeah, no.
By it.
That's not even the only one. Like I've had a bad. But Stacy's like, why have you went to the dentist? Now, let me tell you, I don't have any cavities.
Right.
So I've went a whole lifetime without having teeth fall out.
Great teeth.
Without having cavities, without having anything like that. But ladies and gentlemen, I haven't went to the dentist since I was 18 or 17 years old, but probably 17 years old. I had all 4 of my wisdom teeth cut out without pain reliever because I didn't believe in any kind of pain medicine. So I believe that was when I was 17, and I haven't went back. Now, I went a lot as a child, but it was because what happened to me. My dentist, when I was a kid, got in trouble for gassing people and groping them. So I knew that I was probably groped at some point in time, right?
Right.
And then my orthodontist, when I got my braces, used to put this thing in my mouth, and he would have these nurses giggling around him all the time. Like now I see it as this sleazy bastard that had all these young nurses.
Right.
And they're always like, with their breasts hanging out and stuff. It was like a Mel Brooks movie. And he would stick this big metal contraption in my mouth, and he'd be like, it's time for me to pull out my pecker. Do you know what I'm going to do with my pecker, John? And I'm in 5th grade. He's like, I'm going to stick my pecker in your mouth. And these nurses would be like, just laughing. And I didn't even know what he was talking about. And it was the thing that they put in your mouth when you got braces.
Little hook or something?
No, they put it in there and they pull it back. Like the thing's in your mouth, but you pull this back and it lets loose and kind of pounds.
Oh, I didn't.
It's like a spring activated thing, okay?
Right.
So if you pulled back something and let it go and it went.
So he called it his pecker.
He called it his pecker, and he would make the joke of sticking his pecker in my mouth.
Was your dentist Benny Hill?
And my dentist is Benny. I'm locked up now because somebody wasn't as naive as little John,
right?
And took offense to the pecker in the mouth.
Obviously,
joke.
Obviously,
that's the stuff I remember. I'm afraid. The stuff that's blocked. You know what I mean? But he did a great job.
Yeah. I mean, you have great teeth.
Yeah, his pecker did an incredible job in my mouth. I can't really complain. I don't appreciate it enough, I don't think.
I guess not.
But, hopefully you guys loved our Halloween list of...
I think we got a little off track. That's okay.
It was about teeth.
That's true.
It was about teeth.
That's true.
But number one on both of them, I think, is universally accepted.
Yes, I think so.
In my humble opinion. But if you want to know more about Halloween, you know what you can do?
Why, yes. You can go to paranormalsideshow.com, your address to find everything Halloween. Or facebook.com/paranormalsideshow. Tons of Halloween stuff there. On Twitter, it's @sideshow97. Not going to find any Bible tracts or nasty candy on Twitter. Instagram, Hot Halloween Dam is John and Stacey Edwards. All kinds of hot Halloween stuff there. And if you want to get some treats, but no tricks from us, visit us on patreon.com. Become a patron because I never ask you. So do it for me. And you'll get all kinds of cool stuff when you choose one of our levels. And remember that our book is coming out soon, Till Death.
Yes, the book. And hey, I'll give you some money now that you've said that. The little reverse rolls there.
Since you made me read it. So now you have to do all the news.
It's like we did gender swap. If we did the news, if I did the news, this show would be bloody 20 minutes. Because I wouldn't be able to interrupt it.
That's very true.
Are you kidding?
And I wouldn't interrupt you. I'd just let you talk.
Nah. No, let's keep the news as it is.
Okay.
Number one, I don't even know how you do your news. It's a mystery to me. And I like being surprised.
Okay.
And everybody else does too. We have a jam-packed episode for you guys. I hope you've enjoyed the monologue so far. But let me tell you, when I said this was a spooktacular, I wasn't joking. So if you've not already relaxed and taken your favorite drug, now is the time. We don't promote drug use here on the Paranormal Side Show. We promote healthy living and good choices.
That's right.
But for those of you who make bad choices, now's the time.
We don't judge.
Time for some paranormal news.
All right, so let's get to the news.
Let's.
Okay, so this first story is a UFO sighting, and it's from Chile.
Ah, Chile.
Yes, which, we love any kind of UFO sighting that comes out of there because their government really seriously researches in depth any kind of UFO sighting.
I would also like to say their government eats a big bowl of no F's given on a weekly basis, it seems. But
right,
yeah, the Chilean government's awesome.
This particular story is about a sighting that actually happened last May, but they are just now releasing the information because they've done their investigation and that sort of thing. And so what I'm going to link to is a story, and I'm also going to link to a video where you can hear pilot transcripts, where, hear the conversations between the
talking,
pilots.
Yeah, not the actual transcripts.
No, the transcripts are what you're going to get on the article.
It'd be like, hold on a second. It'd be like, this is an actual transcript you're about to hear.
That's amazing. Wow. So what happened to this particular UFO sighting was that 6 airliners that were in flight all saw the same thing in the sky. It was 3 orbs of light.
I'm sorry, I just imagined the sun. It's like, how often does that happen? It was big and yellow. It was hot. It was strange, man.
It was 3 shiny unknown objects, and one of the pilots actually claimed that they were in triangular formation.
Wow.
So it could have been 3 separate UFOs, it could have been just one large object.
Right.
Not really sure. One of the pilots did catch a picture of it, so you can see the picture of the lights, and it's just 3 shiny objects in a triangle formation.
But six airplanes.
6 different airplanes.
One picture.
Yeah, exactly. 6 different airplanes. They all almost exactly at the same time confirmed that they could see it in the sky. They called lots of different people, like the air traffic controllers called different control centers and asked them. They contacted planes in the area, and everybody confirmed that they did see this object in the sky. So the Center for Anomalous Phenomena Research of Chile actually published the video that has the picture. It has all of the recordings of the conversations. Now, the video, it's in Spanish, so unless you, it's not translated. So unless you can understand that language, the video is not really going to do you any good unless you just want to see the picture. Mm-hmm. But if you go to the article, it is all typed out there in English and translated, where you can follow the whole conversation. But absolutely amazing.
It's translated with a Spanish accent, though.
Yes, I think so. You have to read it with the Spanish accent, yes. But absolutely amazing sighting.
It's very cool.
Has been corroborated by 6 pilots and people on the ground.
Yeah, so you have
amazing
the 6 pilots, which they always say, that you're credible, sightings, right? So you have the 6 pilots, and the people, like you said, on the ground. This is the epitome of a great UFO sighting.
Right. And the fact that they have actually investigated it and could not come up with an explanation for the lights. I think the only one that they mentioned in the article is that it was suggested that maybe there were lights on the sea and there was some kind of weird reflection because of the weather, but they ruled that out. They were like, no,
there's a lot of weird stuff that's been going on here lately, and with the sky, with the phenomena and stuff. Even with some of the stuff we posted on the Paranormal Sideshow Facebook, on the some of the videos I posted, one of them I feel like I need to explain a little bit. So one of them was obviously what they call a sundog.
Right.
And the thing was that thing was in the sky. And you can go to facebook.com/paranormal sideshow and see these videos. But the sundog, I have several videos of it. It was in the same spot for well over an hour, which is strange not to move. But then it was actually, I posted the video afterwards, but it was the day before. The day before, we were witness to something. There was a strange phenomena. And, I have to tell you guys, because I'm always honest with you, I was telling the story and I saw something here in the studio. And it was like right over, a space. I seen a woman standing the other day. And I seen her again just now, but it was like she came up out of the floor.
Like she was climbing stairs.
Like she was climbing stairs. It's very strange. So I'm just telling you that because I tell you guys everything that happens weird. I don't know if there was anything on the audio or anything, but
we'll have to keep watching, because wouldn't it be just like us to end up with a residual haunting in our house?
Yeah. That would be funny, wouldn't it? Yes. I wouldn't tell anybody. I'm just kidding. I would tell everybody, because you would tell everybody. So the other video was really strange, and it was hard because you have to defend yourself on it, and I hate videos you have to defend yourself on, because I'm not a blibbering idiot. So I wouldn't put something out that I couldn't see with my naked eye.
Right.
Like a bunch of solar flares, or a bunch of lens flares. I wouldn't put that out.
Right.
Okay. There was this webbing, and the webbing was not just close to us, like it was shooting out, like you were looking at a spider web that was beautiful, but it was going out, and it was like rays. Like if you looked at a ray gun on a cartoon from the 50s, and it's a beep 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 beep, and it's got the semicolons just coming out and getting bigger. It was like that with the webs, and it would happen over and over and over. But way up in this blue sky, clear sky, way up there, the same thing was happening, and it appeared to be happening around the sun.
Right.
And it kept going, and we're talking 35, 40 minutes that we watched it before leaving, and and seeing all this happening, it was very, very strange. And then there was also little orbs involved. That all this was with the naked eye. Now, yes, I captured it on the phone, but the phone didn't do it justice.
No.
Nor would I ever post anything that I couldn't see.
Right.
So it was just a very strange phenomenon, and I'm sure it's a natural phenomenon.
Right.
It's just I've never in my life seen it.
Right. It wasn't something we witness. Very often.
So very strange. There was no wind as well. I know people have talked about the low flying webs that happen in the wind. That's great, but there was no wind. And they weren't low flying.
Right.
So I don't know what they were, but there's been some strange stuff in the sky recently.
Yes,
and this UFO sighting that you have is just, amazing. It's nice to see some good quality UFO sightings popping back up.
Exactly. We haven't had them. It's been a minute, hasn't it?
It really has.
Okay, well, let's go on to this next story. Since we're kind of talking about UFOs already anyway.
Yes.
This is an interesting story from Argentina.
Argentina. I love Argentina.
And this is something I've actually never heard of before. It's very strange. So a young man in Argentina.
Can I say hi to Dr. Nico?
Yes.
Hi, Dr. Nico.
I'm sure he was very grateful.
Yes. Well, it's he actually it's been very busy. It's he's in my preferred list of listeners, but he's been very busy, and we haven't been able to catch up.
Right.
We're both slammed, but I thought it was a good chance to say hi. So hi.
Well, in this particular story, there's a young man in Argentina. He stumbled across these two, what they're calling drawings in the snow. So there's like a layer of snow on the ground.
Were they yellow?
No. And they were formations, strange formations that were very reminiscent of crop circles. One was a star shape, and the other one was sort of circular in nature, but they were symmetrical. They were in the snow, and there weren't any, like this young man sort of looked around, there weren't any like footprints or anything, and it's not a highly trafficked area.
Right.
Like he was just out riding his motorcycle and just happened to come across these areas with these strange formations, and nobody really knows what they are, if there's some kind of natural explanation. I've never heard of crop circle like formations made in the snow.
Yeah, but I mean, there's no reason that they shouldn't be there. We wouldn't see them normally because they would melt.
Right.
Yeah. So.
But it's just very strange.
It is strange.
Yes.
It's very strange. It goes on to the mystery of crop circles. I mean, what if crop circles are something from the ancients, not necessarily from outer space,
right?
But from right here on our planet with the, maybe the Fae, maybe something to do with the fairy world, and I think that's a lot more. I think
plausible.
I think it makes a lot more sense to me.
I think so.
That some nature spirits are giving us some kind of, maybe it's markings for them for hey,
I mean, it could be. It's just very strange. And there are pictures on the article, so go and look, see what you think. And I think they just thought it was very strange because it didn't look like anybody had walked into the area and done it.
Has anybody else heard of any in the snow before? So let us know,
Yeah, very strange.
What, if you have heard of it, give us some kind of example, please, because I haven't heard of it before, ever.
No, me neither. All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about China.
And
something that they plan on doing. China is trying to be very advanced and, upping all their science, technology, and space and all that.
Yeah.
So they have actually said that they plan to launch an artificial moon to light up the night skies and help them save on their citywide electrical bill.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to believe that we didn't lead with this one. Now, we've been sitting on this story since the day after we released the last podcast. So sometimes we run into this problem, especially we've been really consistent with our weekly podcast. So we've been very rich with news, but this is one of those that the day after the podcast got released, it's like China's fake moon. You can't even make this stuff up. So I don't know if this will ever get off the ground, but it seems like it's going that way.
I don't know. Now, essentially what they want to do is send an illuminated satellite, something that will reflect the sunlight back down to Earth like the moon would do. And they did say that a lot more testing needs to be done to make sure the plan's viable and that it won't have some sort of detrimental effect on the natural environment.
Right.
But they feel like if they can get this to work and then can also plan some more subsequent ones in the years coming up, that it would save them millions on what they spend right now to light up the city.
Right.
Because they would have that artificial moonlight to kind of light it up. So very ambitious plan. I don't know who comes up with these things.
I don't know. I mean, I like it. It's definitely 21st century.
It is.
Or 23rd century, actually.
They're going to put something creepy on like the backside of their artificial moons.
I don't know.
On the dark side.
I don't know. I mean, it's very odd. It's a bit too play goddish to me. Like for me, it's a bit on the side of is this technology, or I don't think that they would launch the artificial moon without it having nefarious plans.
Right. I understand.
Just because it's impossible.
I just got that play god-ish. I'm sitting here working in my head what words you're saying, and I'm like, what? Oh, play god-ish. Okay, I got you.
So I've always been opposed like the things like clones, anything Tower of Babel. Okay.
Right.
I don't like to tease that which we do not know.
Right. Exactly. I'm with you there.
And so there is a realm that I will stay in. There are lines for me. And then there's some, and it could be the way that's, I'm indoctrinated or whatever.
Right.
But there are certain things that don't seem right to me. And plus, the other side of that is all governments are corrupt. For lack of a lot of better words.
Right.
No matter what side of the aisle you're on, there is a level of corruption.
Right.
And in whatever country you're in, it all comes down to money. It all comes down to power. It all comes down to control, to oil, to gold, to greed. And in these corporations, it all comes down to corporations. So if this goes in, wonderful. It sounds wonderful. Let's keep it lit. Let's save the environment. Let's save money. But there's something else in there. It's some way to mind control everyone, or it's some way to China is the one that Google is currently developing the new search engine for that takes
Well, are they the ones that are doing the new point system?
Yes, they're doing the point system.
Yes.
For their people, so you can be a good citizen.
Right.
And you follow the right things. And nothing that goes into the Google search engine that Google is building for them, which means we should not even deal with Google. In my opinion, if you're doing something that censors the rights of human beings to any degree, you shouldn't be allowed to do business with a free country.
Right.
And it's just I think it's ridiculous to build the specifications just for the almighty dollar. Let China build their own search engine.
Yeah, honestly, if they can put a fake moon in the sky.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, essentially, they're saying that this artificial moon would be an illuminated satellite, and of course, satellites are for tracking things.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, it's not like we're not being tracked already. I get it.
Right.
All this stuff's already happening, but this one, I don't know, man. I feel weird about it.
I agree. So let's move on and let's talk about some awesome discoveries.
Yes, discoveries are great.
Awesome discoveries. So this is a discovery that they made in the Black Sea. So they're actually doing a Black Sea maritime archaeology project. They've been working on this thing for years, 3 years, and they've already surveyed over 772 square miles. But they have recently found the world's oldest intact shipwreck.
Wow.
The bottom of the Black Sea.
Holy cow.
And they're so excited.
Yeah. How old is that?
Well, the reason that they are able to find such an intact shipwreck is because the way the Black Sea, the physiology of it, there's a layer that's what they call anoxic.
Oh, so it's like nature's Ziploc bag, like yellow and blue make black in this
in this case.
Like the Black Sea is perfect for keeping it real, yo.
Well, essentially it has kept this ship and preserved it for more than 2,400 years. Wow. So it is actually, this particular ship was actually discovered back in 2017, but they're just now announcing it was just confirmed. But it was a ship design that has only previously been seen on ancient Greek pottery. It's like a Greek ship.
God.
And so they're very excited. They can't wait to study
what could all be in there?
Who knows?
Oh my God.
Knows?
Oh my God. It could be like the first drafts of, oh my God. 2,400 years ago would fall right in the line of some interesting happenings.
Yes. And so the experts, they've been using technology that was previously available only to like oil companies and stuff like that. That's letting them look down in. And they've actually, during this project, they've discovered over 60 shipwrecks. I mean, they discovered a lot of things.
Do you know what they didn't discover?
What's that?
Oil. Do you know how I know?
How's that?
Because I'm hearing about the shipwrecks.
Yeah, exactly.
It's because they're probably down there to start with, and they're like, let's tell them we're looking for artifacts, trying to find the oil. Nah,
all we found was all these artifacts.
Yeah, son of a bitch. We didn't find any oil. I found all these old damn ships. And go have fun with your ships, Johnson.
Well, it's a very cool project, and I will link to the story. There's some links on there, and it does say that a documentary about the actual Black Sea project, the whole thing, has just opened at the British Museum in London. So, anyone that's local to that can go see about the whole project and all the different things. But this particular shipwreck, just the fact they've never seen one like this before is amazing.
I really like to know what's in there. I mean, that to me links the little John in me again want to go back in time and become an archaeologist.
Well, hopefully it doesn't say anything in there about what their next steps are. I don't know how something like that works when it's in an unoxygenated area, if you can bring that out into the air, or if it would just disintegrate, just turn into dust. So I don't really know what the steps are now. I'm sure they have a plan, but it'll probably take a long time. It's just so awesome. I mean, the underwater archaeology is really cool because there's so much that we haven't explored and we don't, and it's just you're just having to guess, and I'm sure there's more to it than guesswork, but I'm sure
it's just so awesome what you can find. I mean, if you find something like this and this was what you did for a living, right? How much would this fuel you for the next 20 years on finding something even older?
Well, I love it when they find things that have been notated in like ancient literature that they didn't think was real, but then all of a sudden, here it is. And like this ship, they've never seen one, but they've seen it on the pottery.
Just think, a lot of times back then we wrote our stories on tablets. So there's a good chance that we could find things that were relics that may have some significance to backing up some kind of history or to change history. Right. And anything that helps clear that murky picture up, because we have somewhat of a murky picture and we have a whole lot of conjecture. A whole lot of, I think people have over the years connected this to this and it's been accepted.
Right. But
but maybe we don't know exactly. So,
well, I mean, that's really all you can do, make educated guesses if you don't have all the information. And then as the information comes, you can change what you think.
The guesses are very educated as well. I mean, there's a lot of thought that goes into all that, but I really love to see the tangible proof.
Yes. Well, let's talk about our next story is also another discovery, which is a very cool one. And it's one of the discoveries that kind of puts our timeline back in a certain area. So this is about a team that finds the oldest weapons ever discovered in North America.
Wow.
And this is awesome. This is from Central Texas. So Texas A&M University researchers have discovered what are believed to be the oldest weapons ever found in North America, which are like ancient spear points that are 15,500 years old.
Wow.
Yes. So I think the oldest that they've ever found anything is around 13,000. That's the oldest they thought that it got.
Yeah.
And this just blows that away.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, that goes back before. Now, there's a lot of Graham Hancocks out there, Robert Shocks, who they believe that we had a flood around 12,000 years ago.
Right.
That the Great Flood happened around that time, and they have a lot of evidence that water damage and the Sphinx and so all kinds of stuff. Right. So they look at all this stuff, and but the Great Flood they look at because they look at Göbekli Tepe, they look at different places, and they talk about how we had maybe the great civilizations before then and higher technology that maybe we lost.
Right.
So that would go back before that, which would kind of dispel the flood because it's not some high tech
No, this particularly was not a high-tech tool. It was just spearheads about 3 to 4 inches long.
For killing large game.
Yeah, probably. And, they've been doing this archaeological work at this particular site for about 12 years. And this is the oldest thing they found. Like, they've just finally gotten down to this layer. Yeah. So it's very cool. They were really excited about it. And, one of those things where we've had these stories so much. Everything is always older than what they think.
Yeah, I mean,
we're different.
And it's so mind-blowing, right? Because we look at America and we think, wow, 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, the Native Americans before that. But you look at even our timeline right now on the AD side of things, we're, at 2018, right?
Right.
In that 2,000 years, we have maybe 500 years of accurate history. I'll give it 600. I'll give it to around 1500. Going backwards, 1400s, and definitely 1400s. I'm just trying to think here. You get back to the Dark Ages. They're the Dark Ages. Why? Because we don't have a whole lot of history. It's not because everything was dark.
Right.
It's the Dark Ages because it's like total darkness on our history to the point that some people believe it didn't happen. Some people believe we're not as far along in the timeline as what we say.
Right.
And they think that somebody put that in there.
Right.
But regardless, I'm not getting down that rabbit hole. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's definitely a rabbit hole.
I'm just saying that there's not a whole lot of history. So when we find this stuff, it's mind-boggling because you're talking 15,000 years, okay? You're talking 15,000 years, which in my calculations there, I just said we go back let's just say 1,500 years. No, that's not even, I'm being nice. Take 1,000 years off of it. So 14,000 years that we don't really know that much about.
Right.
And this is from 15,000 years ago, right? Holy cow. I mean, and that's here in the United States.
Yes.
In Texas. So it's just, you never know what is under your feet.
Never know.
And how much has everything changed since then? What did the landscape look like?
Oh, yeah.
What could have came and gone in that much time? Think about what has come and gone in the past 100 years.
Oh, yeah.
And think about the ruins and how nature reclaimed something from 500 years ago. Okay? In my travels in this area of the country, there's a lot of towns that were once towns that because of coal booms and whatever, they're not towns anymore. Right. There's not as much businesses. And I tell you, there's houses I see from maybe the 60s and the 70s that nature has completely reclaimed.
Right.
And I see them all the time. And a lot of times around here in this area, something burns down, they just leave it burnt down. And the structure's kind of there and it just gets grown over and
quicker than you would think.
Way quicker than you would think.
Yes. I mean,
it's just amazing what is there. And we talk about this. If you were to listen to every show in a row, and so which people have, there's going to be a few things that stick out to you after that journey is done. And one of the main ones I would have to think is going to be the civilization before.
Right.
And lost knowledge. I think the next thing would be mysterious booms and aliens, and stuff like that. But just interesting. So.
Yes. Well, let's move on to this next story. This is kind of a miracle type story. So this is about a church in Massachusetts, an historic church that was built in 1872.
Right.
And unfortunately, it was struck by lightning recently and it burnt to the ground.
That's too bad.
It just went, the fire chief said that it just went up like a tinderbox. It was built, in 1872. It was like a balloon style.
This is in Massachusetts. He's like, oh yeah.
Once the fire started, it just went quick. But it turns out that when they were dismantling the remnants of the building and they were trying to find the official cause of the fire, they actually found a picture of Jesus, a painting that was hanging inside the doors.
So they found a picture of Jesus?
Yeah, like a photograph.
Holy cow.
a painting of Jesus that miraculously survived. Untouched.
Wow.
And it hung inside the doors of the church and it is perfectly fine.
So everything else was totally destroyed, right?
It does say that it went up like a tinderbox and that the estimated damage was more than $1 million.
$1 million.
$1 million. And by the time the firefighters showed up, there wasn't really anything that they could do. It had gotten so far that it was just too great for them to stop it. So they just, sort of did what they could, kind of kept it contained, tried to put it out. But they've actually started a GoFundMe to help the church rebuild.
Right.
So it was very extensive damage, except for that picture.
That's pretty amazing. Now, how many times this year alone have we heard about a religious artifact or a painting? There's been a few times that it's survived during a fire.
Yeah, because we had one recently where the pictures were up in the attic and there was a fire and the pictures were fine. And just to give you a clue for those that are aware of what fires are like, this was considered a 7-alarm blaze. Which is big.
Wow.
It's big for a fire. And they said they couldn't find a cause for the fire, but some local people said that they did see the steeple get struck by lightning. So that's most likely what happens.
Well, that's pretty incredible.
Yes. And the church
God's like, I'm going to burn this down just so you can see this miracle.
Well, the church is, I think, on the National Register of Historic Places because, it's so old. Yeah. And it was built in 1872, but it was rebuilt in 1912 after it had a fire.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah. So
maybe they need to check and see what it's built on.
Maybe. Yeah. Or maybe they should build it out of stone this time instead of wood. I don't know, but that's really cool about the picture.
It's interesting that church was burnt down twice. I don't know.
Yes, that is interesting. Something to look into, isn't it?
I just think that maybe somebody should check and see if there's a sign there. Like maybe we should dig a little bit.
Maybe we should see what's going on here in the ground.
The Jesus picture just survived. The church has been struck. Possibly it could have been struck the first time too.
Possibly.
I mean, that's just interesting.
I think it's near Boston.
Yeah.
So.
Of course it's near Boston. Very creepy place.
All right. Well, let's move on.
Let's.
How about a ghost story?
Okay.
So this news story isn't exactly about a ghost story, but it has a ghost story that goes along with it. So I'm going to tell you that first.
Just boo and click.
So this is about a train track in San Antonio.
Right.
And it's one of those legendary ghost tracks, and it has the cool story that goes with it. So I'm going to tell you the story. Okay. So the legend goes that it was decades ago, late 30s, early 40s, something like that. On a dark evening, a nun was driving a school bus full of children home after a field trip. And they were heading down this road. It's called Shane Road. And when they were approaching the railroad crossing, the bus abruptly stalled out on the tracks. So it was really late and a lot of the students were sleeping. So the nun just, tried to start the engine again. And around that time, a train emerged on the track. And it seemed like it came out of nowhere because its headlamp was burnt out and it didn't, toot the horn or whatever. And so it's just like it came out of nowhere and it was right on top of her. She had no time to get the kids out. She kept trying to start the bus, but ultimately tragedy struck and the train hit the bus, cutting it in half, and all of the children were killed except the nun survived.
My God.
So a few weeks later, the nun was completely guilt-ridden, heartbroken about what happened, and she returned to the site of the accident. And according to legend, she was unable to continue on, and she had decided that she was going to take her own life because she was so heartbroken over what had happened. So she parked her car on the train tracks and sat there waiting for the train to come because that's how she wanted to go, because that's what had happened to the children. She wanted to do it the same way. So as she was sitting there, the train came into sight, speeding down on her. She kind of began to hear these small voices, and then her car began to move forward as though it was being pushed from behind. And the nun's car was rolled to safety just as the train roared by. So she was in total disbelief, and she got out of her car and began looking around, expecting to find, some people there that had saved her off from the tracks, but she didn't see anybody. And when she went around to the back of her car, she noticed children's-sized handprints on the back of her trunk. So she realized that it was the ghosts of the children that had died that saved her from the train tracks and saved her life, and it gave her new purpose. And supposedly she opened an orphanage to take care of, orphans. And that's how she spent the rest of her life until she died. So that is the legend. So it is said to this day that if you park your car near the train tracks or on the train tracks, that it will get pushed out of the way and you can find little handprints on your back window.
That's really cool.
Which is a legend that, you hear
a lot of places.
Yeah. But that's the legend for this particular train track. And people come, it's such a famous legend in that area that people come from all over. And you can find stories online where people supposedly did the baby powder trick, where they put it on the back of their car and then they would go and they'd put their car in neutral and wait. And then supposedly the car would come off the tracks. And then if you get out, you could see the handprints. And people swear.
Right.
They swear to it. Now, obviously, this is something that is said to be an optical illusion.
Yeah.
The road's slightly...
Right. They always say it's an optical
inclined
illusion.
Or declined.
We've done these things in places.
Yes. So this particular article, the reason I told you the whole legend was this particular article is about the Union Pacific Railroad Company that's actually altering that particular area of the tracks. They're putting in what's called a sliding track, and they're changing the elevation of that exchange, and it's going to change the whole landscape of that area. So people are afraid now that this is not going to happen anymore, that it's going to, people aren't going to be able to come and do the thing where the car comes off the track. So it's like eliminating the mystery of the ghost tracks, the famous ghost tracks in San Antonio.
Well, if it's really ghost, then it shouldn't affect it too much. Like, maybe if it's still that area, then they can still go there and do it. So I've seen these things happen before, and they're very interesting because I've seen it work. I've seen a car go backwards in Elizabethton, Tennessee, and I've seen these things work. I think that we're looking a lot of times in these local legends at tulpas.
Right. Yes. Well, I mean, if you do the historical research on this particular area, those things never really happened. There was not really a bus crash.
Right.
Not in that area. I think there may have been somewhere in the country at some time. It's one of those things where people just associate it, and who knows what really happens, if it's just your mind or it's just an illusion. But the fact that they're going to go out there and do that work, and they're actually getting it done before Halloween, so it may already be done now. So if you haven't had a chance to go to the San Antonio Ghost Tracks and try it, it might be too late by the time you listen to this.
It's very awesome, though.
But it's an awesome story, and I am curious to see if someone goes out there after they finish the work.
Oh, yeah.
And if anything happens.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're out there, let us know.
Well, the funny thing is if you go, I encourage you to go and listen to the news story, because they actually had someone from the local news channel go out to the area at night, and he was telling the story and talking about it. And during his news story, he was like, did you all hear that? Like, he kept hearing things, and he was like, okay, I think I need to get out of here. Like, he was kind of scared standing out there. It was really good. And then when it went back to the newsroom, they were all like, hey, have you guys seen whatever his name was, Chris or whatever? And they're like, no, I don't think I've seen him. So
I'll tell you, really man, funny. I mean, there's a lot of power in legends and belief, right? So we talk about spells all the time.
Yes.
And a lot of power. Well, the whole power of spells and prayer, and you've got all these people looking and thinking the same thing, and especially putting the power into these places, right? These PowerPoints. And we talk about before the pay-per-view theory of ours,
right?
When people go into the same Waverly Hills every night and put this power back into a place. That it changes and it morphs over time into maybe a darker, haunting than it ever was before.
Right.
Because of all the belief and the power and the fear that goes into it. And so these kids, we know how strong teenage minds are, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So if you're a teenager, where are you going? You're going to the trestle. You're going to the haunted trestle. You're going to the haunted lake. It doesn't cost
any money.
You're going to the happy birthday house. You're going to all these places, and you are the haunting. I totally believe you become the haunting, because I went to the happy birthday house and the damn thing felt haunted to me.
It does. Well, it's because that's the energy everybody's putting there, like you said. Yeah, absolutely. I think we talked about that recently.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on.
Let's
move on. So this is a cool story. This is a story that's in People magazine, and it was written by this woman named Julie Jordan, and she actually went ghost hunting with the Ghost Adventures guys.
Oh, very cool.
And she wrote this long article, and this article that I'm going to link to is kind of just a snippet of it. You have to actually get the magazine to get like the full experience on it. And it was filmed for an episode that airs on November 24th.
Ah.
So we may get to see this part of the thing, but she was talking about how at the end of August, she met with the team in Eureka, Utah, which is an old mining town because we love those things. And it's near Salt Lake City. And, she talked to them all. So there'll be, interviews in there in that article. And asked them how they all got in the field, and they all told their stories and that sort of thing. And so she went ghost hunting with them, and she admits that she's already a fan of the show, that, she really liked the idea of doing it. She was really excited that she got to go do it. And she talked about how they went through the place and how they caught EVPs and that sort of thing. And she says in the article that she knew beforehand that Zach was going to make her stay in there by herself. So she was like, I knew it was going to happen. It always happens to Aaron. They always put him in the by. So she's like, I knew that I was going to be left alone. She's like, and she said that, she enjoys yoga. She knows how to do deep breaths, but that none of that could prepare her for being alone in this dark building. And she talked about how it doesn't look that dark on TV, but when you're there, it's really, it's a whole different experience, whole different experience. And so she talks about a couple of different things that she saw. I think she saw like a ball of light. She did hear some EVPs. It's definitely things that spooked her, to the point that she did not do the last part of the investigation.
Wow.
And I believe the last part of the investigation she said somebody said something. It sounded good because they said something about doing a ritual and opening a portal, and it sounds good when you hear it, but then when you're there, it's kind of like, no, I think I'll just wait in the car. So she didn't want to take part in that part of it, but she did wait around, I think, to see the rest of the evidence. So it's a pretty cool article. Like I said, you can read what's online, but you'll have to get the magazine to get the whole thing. And then, of course, it's going to air on November 24th. So
and don't forget, if you're a Ghost Adventures fan, this coming Halloween, they're doing the Halloween special. So they're going to be at Zach's Museum again, and it should be amazing. Last Halloween's special was really cool, but I love the fact they're still doing the Halloween specials and stuff. So they got some special guests on there. And if you haven't, if you haven't been watching Ghost Adventures, you should do it. I mean, you should really go back and check it out. I know over the years there's been in the field, you've had love and hate and everything else. But I tell you, as far as seeing a show with some good evidence and some excitement.
Right. Yeah. I'm curious about his museum. I wonder how many portal opening rituals have been done in that haunted museum, because they like to do those.
I tell you, you know.
Yeah.
Stacy gives me a hard time because I can't say anything about any of it. Like if somebody's like, "Can you believe you touched that?" and Stacy's always just like, "Yes,
I can believe it.
Yes, I can believe it." It's funny. I talked about this recently because I was reciting something out of the book, but they just recently had like their 10-year anniversary of their first episode on the Travel Channel. And I remembered this meeting I had with a former team of ours, and we were at a hotel in Louisville, Kentucky, and we were doing Waverly on one of our Waverly all-nighters.
Right.
And we were having a meeting of the whole team, because he had the whole team together back when we had those huge teams that I hated.
Right.
And we were sitting there and having this big board meeting, and we were talking about, what are we going to do? Where are we going to go? This and that, even evidence stuff, yay and nay.
Right.
And I remember talking about, somebody brought up the Ghost Adventures documentary that had happened.
Right.
Like on Sci-Fi.
Right.
And I remember going bananas. I remember completely defending it. And telling people, because somebody was like, "Oh, I just don't like the way that they didn't debunk this, they didn't do that," because they were so used to what they seen on TV.
Right.
And I had been investigating my own way for a long time already, and my way was just balls to the wall. Just let's go in there. It feels aggressive. Let's get aggressive. I'm not saying that's a good way,
right?
But I kind of grew with their TV show as an investigator around the same time period. So I love it very much because I remember defending that show before it was actually the show. Right. And so I've always been on that side of the fence with it because it's the best paranormal show on television.
I mean, I really enjoy the show. I'm one of the ones that have been back and forth with it. I didn't like it for a long time because I thought it was very sensationalized. But I mean, I'm with you about them growing during the show. And one thing, Like, I don't particularly agree with the whole portal opening rituals. I know they do those quite a lot now because I feel like they're not really investigating the location. They're more like haunting the location themselves because they're opening these portals. But, you know, if you watch their whole progression from when they started to now, it's almost like they've already done the event. Like they've done all the investigating. This is just their next step for more information on what's on the other side.
Yeah, it's more to the fact now on the journey of answering the questions. Yeah.
Right. Because every place they've been, I mean, they investigate so much that they've gone in and done the scientific-y, you know, and they're very careful about making sure what they put out there is legitimate. Like they have all the angles and they make sure that nothing's interfering with it. And they've done all that and they've made themselves, you know, credible and whatever. And now they're doing this, even if I don't always agree with it. I mean, that's just the next step in their own personal, you know, journey to figure out what's on the other side.
I know you don't particularly like the fact that they always jump to the worst possible thing.
Right.
And you don't like that about me.
Right.
And, you know, and I do the same thing. So I appreciate the fact of how you are. And I think the difference in their team, maybe in ours, is I celebrate your opinion.
Right. Right.
So you standing there telling me, you just went to the worst possible thing. Maybe it's the ghost of this lady and she's sad.
Right.
And it gives me that second. Now, I might not always like it right at the time.
Right.
But there's been many times that Stacy and I have butted heads and I come back and think, you know, or she comes back and thinks, well, you know what? Maybe it is dark or, you know, or I come back and.
Right. Sometimes it is.
Right. So you know, on your team, whatever team you have, even if you do a husband-wife thing like us, just make sure that everybody's opinion counts equally. If it's a one-man show, you're not gaining anything.
Right. Or if everybody thinks exactly the same,
right?
You know, you're not really learning anything. You're just.
When we had Tim Clark, Connie, Ashley, and you and me, right? And we had various other players in there, but you know, even if you throw a Molden in there, you're looking at such a think tank of completely, and throw Wes in there, you know.
Oh yeah.
There's such a difference in you have a religious doctrine, you have a scientific view of things, but knows that the paranormal's real. You have a very, I wish I wasn't even here right now. you have like the like another scientific view. You have the more
you have a healthy dose of skepticism in there.
Healthy dose of skepticism, and you have the absolute dreamer that it has to be convinced that it's not real.
Right.
You know, so all that together though made quite a good team because we were able to celebrate each other's opinions. And even though all this stuff always happened to me because the ghost just knew that, you know, if you're a ghost, like when we walk in a place, I can see it right now, you know, like there's 12 ghosts standing over there. And imagine like the bad guys on Casper, you know, they're like over there with their yo-yos and their little bowler hats
and stuff.
Yeah. And they're just like, nah, I don't know, Jamie. I don't know. Which one you want? Well, I mean, there's only one choice, Greg. Which one is it? I mean, the one looking straight at us right now. he just stuck his hand right between. Oh, come on, man. Come on. Yes, it's a cold spot. Jeez. All right, we're haunting him all night, you know. But
I like the fact that you actually sat there and did a yo-yo with your hand while you were talking. That was great. Thank you for playing it up for me.
There you go. It's all for story time. All right, but anyway.
All right, well, let's move on. Well, speaking of story time.
Can I just talk about something?
Sure.
So, we burn a lot of candles.
We do.
We burn a lot of candles.
Lots.
We keep candles in business. So, we were sitting here, we burned these candles, and they were to the point of the only thing left was the wax, and it was in a hot molten state.
Right.
So I started just sticking my fingers in it in the very scalding hot wax.
I saw that. I'm surprised you didn't say anything.
While she's telling the stories and not even thinking about it. Well, I end up getting all my fingers completely encased in wax while we're doing the news, and I'm not thinking about it until I pull them out, and then they're on fire. So I'm trying without making noise to get the wax, but the wax isn't coming off, and it's just burning my fingers. And
are you okay? Your fingertips are awful red.
Yeah, they're okay. I think I'm gonna wash my hands, and we're gonna cut.
All right. Well, speaking of stories, let's go on to the next story, and this is a really cool story. It's about a book that has recently been published. It's called Unexplained Supernatural Stories for Uncertain Times.
I love the name.
And what this story is about is it's a reincarnation story.
Oh.
You know that I love these when children remember details from their past lives.
Right.
And so this was actually in the Daily Mail, and they adapted a part of the book and put it in there at like an article. And I thought I would just tell the story because this one was so incredible.
Very cool.
And it was amazing. So this is the story of Carl Eden. When Carl Eden was 5 years old, he was a normal 5-year-old kid, loved to draw. He would spend hours just drawing patterns and shapes and things like that. So one morning, his mother, her name is Val, she noticed that he'd been working on a particular picture for a very long time. And she asked to see it, and it was very neat, not very childlike at all. And she couldn't really make out what it was. And she said, what is that you're drawing? And he said that those were his Air Force badges. And when she looked closer, she noticed that one was an eagle and that the next one, to her surprise, was a swastika. Now, this is not something that, they've taught her son, but that's what he drew. And he said that they were his Air Force badges.
Wow.
So even more extraordinary than that, his father, his name was Jim, found his son in his bedroom when he was, close to his 6th birthday. And he had a picture in there, and it showed the cockpit of a plane, complete with all like the gauges and the levers and the instruments and all that sort of stuff. So he questioned him about it. His dad said, Carl, what is this? And Carl pointed it all out, and he pointed out to this red pedal on the bottom. He said that this is the handle where you drop the bombs. And he added that it was a plane called a Messerschmitt bomber. And he said, this is a Messerschmitt bomber, like the one that I flew in the war. That's what he told his dad. And he's 6 years old. And so this wasn't really new. Like, he had been claiming that he was a German soldier in the war since he was like 2 years old.
Right.
Like, he would have nightmares and vivid dreams, screaming that his plane had crashed and that his leg had been severed and that he was bleeding to death. And that's horrible dreams for, a young child to have. And it worried his parents, but they thought they were just dreams. But as he got older, he kept starting doing these drawings and making these amazing claims. And he would say, it really happened. I died. One of our engines ran out, and I opened a hatch to try and get out of the plane, but my right leg was gone. And his mom would say, well, what do you mean? Where was this wound? And on his right leg, where he supposedly lost his leg, he had a big blotchy red birthmark.
Wow.
Which is one of the things that they say.
One have been our theories forever.
Yes. So, his mom was pretty confused, and it bothered her a little bit. And his dad was like, I don't know. He was still kind of skeptical. And, he was like, that plane that he's talking about, the Messerschmitt, it's a fighter plane. It's not a bomber. I don't know how credible the story is. A 6-year-old, how does a 6-year-old know the name of a plane? But still, his dad was still trying to be skeptical about the whole thing. So he thought he would test his son a little more. And he said, well, what kind of uniform did you wear? And he said that he wore gray trousers tucked into knee-high leather boots and a black jacket. So after a while, his dad took all his drawings and took all his information. He went to the library, his local library. And their local library was in Middlesbrough, North Yorkshire. And he had all of the pictures, and he went to the history section, and he just pulled out a bunch of books on, the war and German planes and things like that. And everything was there. The picture of the plane was exactly like the plane had been. There was a Messerschmitt bomber.
Right.
His dad didn't know anything about, but that was a plane, and the uniform was correct, and everything was right. Now, it just so happens that where they lived in Middlesbrough had a special significance with this German plane. Like, there was a crash on January 15th in 1942. There was a German attack on some merchant ships, and one of the planes hit an anti-aircraft cable. One of the wings got sheared off, and it crashed close to that area. And in 1942, people, when after the plane crashed, people came, it was on fire. They couldn't get near it for a long time. And when they finally did, they started pulling bodies out. They pulled out 3 bodies out of the plane. And that particular plane takes a 4-man crew, but they couldn't find the fourth body. They said that, it probably just burned up in the fire because it was really hot. They couldn't even get close to it for a long time. And so they pulled the bodies out. They took them to the local cemetery and they buried them. And the plane at the time crashed into where there were some train tracks. And they really needed the railway to be working, in wartime. Yeah. And so they didn't do a lot of investigating. They basically just covered up the wreckage, rebuilt the train tracks, and just went on.
Yeah.
So that was in 1942. So 30 years later is when Carl Eden was born in 1972. And he lived in that area. And so when he was first born, his parents, it's one of the situations where his parents, he didn't really seem to fit in. Like his brothers and sisters had dark hair and brown eyes, and he had very strawberry blonde hair and blue eyes. And he had all these weird dreams, and he had, he was very particular about his clothes. Like even as a child, he wanted his collars ironed and everything neat. And,
right.
and he just seemed older than his years.
Yeah.
I mean, you've known kids like
yes,
that.
Yes, I do.
Yes. So it was always just this sense that maybe he couldn't relax, that he didn't really belong, things like that. So, as this went on, they had more and more things that happened. Like, I think when he was 7, it said in there when he was 7, he had a friend over for tea. And Carl was telling him the story of how he died in World War II. Like it was on his mind all the time. And his mom was, getting really uncomfortable about it because he was describing in vivid detail about bleeding to death in this plane all by himself. And he actually said when he was 7 that he would die again before he was 25 in this particular lifetime. He's like, because I think he was 20 something in the war, and he would die again before he turned 25. And then he actually finished talking to his friend describing Adolf Hitler, although at the time I don't think he knew the name as a child, but he remembered the man. And he said he got down from the table and started goose stepping around the kitchen.
Oh, wow.
Because he remembered that's how he had to walk.
Yeah.
And so his mom was like, she just put the kibosh on that. She's like, okay, you guys need to, go play, finish eating, whatever. But it was very disturbing. And, as he got older, it would affect him at school, his schoolwork, like he couldn't concentrate on his schoolwork. So eventually it got out, and somebody did an article on it. Like local paper did like a little article on him and his claims. And he would say, he would talk about the village he lived in, and his father's name was Fritz, and, talk about what his mother looked like and things like that. And I mean, he just very, very vivid details. And so after the article got out, it caused a little bit of a sensation. He started getting teased at school, so he stopped talking about it quite as much. Like it wasn't something that he just told his friends about after that, which you can understand. Kids are brutal about this sort of thing. But one morning, he had a really vivid dream the night before, and he was talking to his mom about it. And he said that he was 23, and he was sitting in a plane, and it seemed like he was around, had a lot of glass around him, like maybe he was in the cockpit, he wasn't sure. And the plane was shaking. It was shaking all over the place. And then everything went black. And when he woke up again, the buildings were rushing up at him really quickly. And he knew that he was going to die, that the plane was crashing. And he said that in his dream, the plane must have gone through a window or something, because there was all this glass everywhere. And he saw that his leg had been cut off, and he felt very sad because he had planned to marry this girl in his village, and he wasn't going to get to. And he described in detail about bleeding to death, his final moments, and, everything that had happened. And it was very vivid for him. So, years went on, and the article that was done in Women's Own magazine finally got to like people in Germany who published it. Eventually it got to the United States, and it landed on the desk of a man named Dr. Stevenson, who was a professor of psychiatry at the University of Virginia School of Medicine. And he actually studied past life with children, and he had done it for like 25 years. He's super interested in Carl's case. And so he sent someone to talk to him and interview him, and he kept up with him, through years. And about the time Carl was 13, the memories started to fade a bit. Wasn't as vivid, which happens when children get older. And the last time he talked to Carl was when he was around 18, and he had left school already. He left school at 16 to work for the British Rail Company, and he had a girlfriend. They were getting married. They had a baby. He was very happy, but he didn't really remember anything about his past life. Yeah. Like that was all gone. And the doctor was kind of disappointed that he couldn't get any more information about it, but he was glad that, Carl had moved on because he had such a traumatic time as a child. So that's not where this weird story ends, though. So after he had worked for the British Rail Company for, a few years, about 1995, tragedy struck. And this man had come in to this store and he said, look, I work down for the British Rail and there's been an accident and somebody needs to come down here. And they were at this place called the Grangetown Signal Box. And he said him and his colleague got into an argument. I don't know what happened, but I think he's dead. And so the police went down there with this man, and it was Carl Eden, and he had been stabbed 37 times. This was in 1995, so he would have been 22 or 23. He would not have been 25. Yeah. And, his family was very sad, but they did remember that he did say that he would not live to be 25. It turns out that his coworker was convicted of the murder. They didn't say exactly what happened. They didn't go into detail, but they had gotten in an argument. I guess that guy blacked out and murdered him. And it was just very tragic. Very tragic.
I wonder what Carl is going to be rewarded with after this one.
I don't know.
What the hell did that guy do?
I don't know.
3 lives ago.
But, it was very odd for his family because of all the peculiar visions that he had had. Now, let's fast forward again to 1997, a couple years later, and there were some workers for the Northumbrian Water Board. They were digging a sewage pipeline just a couple miles away from that Grangetown signal box where he had been murdered. And they hit something in the mud. And when they jumped in the pit and they scraped away the earth, they found like some metallic structure and they found an old sack. And when they opened it, it was a parachute. And so they were like, oh my gosh, we found something from the war. So they were really worried that there could be unexploded ammunition. There could have been anything in there. Right. So they got out of the hole and they called the people to come and excavate it. And when they uncovered it, they identified it as a German bomber. And when they did checking, they realized it was the one that crashed on January 15th, 1942 in that same area where Carl Eden was murdered. Right. So same area. So they kept digging, and when they dug a little deeper, they found like 5 tons of wreckage, and they happened to find a fragment of bone. So when they got the records, they figured out about the bodies, so how they only found 3 bodies, and they assumed the last one burned up in the wreckage and it was never been found. Well, they found the skeleton. And so they were excavating him. They thought, wow, we found this complete skeleton of this man that they didn't find back in 1942. And it turns out that this particular soldier would have been in the gunner's position, which would have been under the plane in a ball of glass. Yeah. Exactly. And in that position, when the plane crashed, that would have been the part that took the brunt of the crash. Yeah. And the glass would have gone everywhere. And when they pulled the skeleton out of the ground, it was missing the right leg. So it had been cut off in the accident. So, they identified the body. The plane's gunner, his name was Heinrich Richter. And they took the body out. They actually took it to the cemetery where the other men were buried. They had a huge service. They buried the body. Carl Eden's parents actually went to the service because it had struck such a chord with them with everything that their son had said and that sort of thing. So it was very peculiar, full circle story. And, as it went on, there was a local historian that was so intrigued with this case that he just constantly did some research on it. Eventually, he hooked up with the family. Richter family. Yeah. He got in touch with them and he told them the story. He explained about Carl, and so he got this letter in the mail from them where they sent a picture of Heinrich Richter. And the local historian took the picture to Val and Jim to show them what he looked like. And when they looked at it, they had never seen it before, completely floored. And if you look at the picture and look at the picture of Carl, it's very similar. Wow. It's very, it's the eyes. If you look at the eyes, and even they thought that they were just staring at the face of their son. Wow. So very, tragic story, but very interesting as far as the whole past life, reincarnation, case. Yeah, the soul seemed to be in that area, wandering. And it was all the same area. And found the chance to jump back in. Mm-hmm. Sad that he died so young.
Yeah.
Again. But
very interesting though. What a great story.
It is, and I loved that they picked that story. And so I'm assuming that book has, more of that type of thing in it. But I love those kinds of stories, and that one was just one of the more amazing ones because of all the evidence that they eventually uncovered.
And I love the birthmark thing because you have some interesting birthmark, and some of the kids have had some pretty brutal birthmarks.
Yes.
But yours, you've got the one in the eye, which is strange.
I actually have one on the back of my neck.
Yes.
And my kids all have that too.
Yeah.
On the back of the neck. It's not always apparent, but you can see it sometimes. Like it'll flare up red occasionally.
When you're mad. Yeah. And you get one right in your forehead.
Right between my eyes. It was very red when I was born, but it faded. But you can see it if I get really mad.
And the one in your eye is the one that's very interesting to me. It's definitely the devil's mark. You would not have, you wouldn't be alive still in another time period.
Well, it's funny because I actually have another mark that you can't see on the back of my eye. My eye doctor told me about it. Like it's on the front, and almost directly behind it on the back is another one similar.
That's very cool.
So you can't really tell. So very cool story. Definitely check out that book. Look at this article I'm going to link to, and look at those pictures and see what you think.
Yeah.
See if you think
ParanormalSideshow.com, kids.
Yes, look the same. All right. So story time's over.
There you go.
But I have a few more quick stories just at the end of the show here to top it off. So this is a story from India. And this is a story about a man named Dheeraj Karal. I believe that's how you say it.
Of course it is.
Just all kinds of vowels. And he decided that he wanted to be buried alive so that he could die and be resurrected as God in 3 days.
Awesome.
Yeah. So not only did he do this, but he convinced people to help him. So they dug a hole in front of the temple. He got in, he got covered up. People actually put like mud and slabs and, all kinds of stuff on it. And they stood there and worshiped. Like they were so taken in by this guy that they were worshiping and waiting. And so when the police got wind of it, they were like, okay. And so they went, and they actually had to convince the villagers to get away so that they could dig this poor man up.
Wow.
And eventually they did talk to the village elders because, it was just a village and the villagers just didn't want them to do it. And they convinced the village elders to let them, dig him up so he wouldn't die. And he was barely conscious when he was taken out, and they had to take him to the healthcare center. I believe people followed him there and still stood outside and were, wanting blessings and worshiping. And by the time he recovered, he did say, look, this was all my idea. Nobody helped, they helped me, but they did it because I asked them to. Like he was trying not to make sure nobody else got in trouble for burying him alive. I do believe that he's been charged.
Yeah.
Yeah. For being reckless.
Wow. So
he claims that a supreme power told him.
Yeah. A bad one.
Yeah.
Obviously there's a demon there.
Obviously.
If I ever wanted to do an elaborate murder plot, I mean, if I want to murder someone, I want to make it tasty.
Right.
And so I'm going to talk somebody into going to a small village somewhere. And then I'm going to talk all the villagers after I learn their native tongue. I'm going to talk all of them into making them believe my buddy wants to be a god.
Right.
And
that he needs to be buried.
We're going to bury him alive and stand there and pray in a great way. And then we'll be very awestruck when he doesn't come back. He's going to come back after 7 days, though.
Right.
Of course, the second day I'm going to disappear.
Right.
On a plane back to Maui. And but no, that's
well, very superstitious people still.
Yeah, but man, too bad they didn't get to see, right?
I mean,
I wonder what the demon would have been after 3 days.
Who knows that he wouldn't have come back?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, this next story, this is a very tragic story, but it's very shocking in what happened. And this is about a 72-year-old man that was actually killed when a group of monkeys threw bricks at him.
What?
Yes.
Like bricks or
actual bricks. Oh. So apparently these monkeys, and I believe these are like those macaques, the ones that are all over the place, but macaques. You can't do anything about them because they're protected.
Yeah.
So you can't like kill them or anything. They just have free run. So supposedly he was just gathering some wood for a fire, and these monkeys had gone to a nearby dilapidated building, gotten the bricks and stockpiled them up in a tree. And then sat there and waited. And maybe he got too close. We don't really know. But they were high enough that they threw the bricks down at him, and he was struck so many times that he died at the hospital.
Oh my God.
Which is terrible. And the family is outraged, and they went to the police, but the police were like, what do you want us to do? We can't charge monkeys with a crime.
Why?
That's what they said. They said they can't charge monkeys with a crime. They're protected or whatever. I don't know. But just the fact that these monkeys knew to go get the bricks and keep them and then throw them at somebody. I mean, now that they know they can do that and they have that power, isn't that scary?
Well, you know what I would do?
Yeah, you'd throw bricks back at the monkeys.
No, I would skin every damn one of them and hang them there for the others to see.
They would learn that too, wouldn't they?
Yeah. I mean, it's like, here you smart monkey.
Little monkey heads on spikes.
Yeah. Be like, here, I'm Vlad the Monk Powler. Here you little monkeys, you little macaques. Here's your buddies all strung up here.
This is what happens when you throw bricks.
Yeah, and this is your little macaque cocks around my neck here. That, you're so smart. Way to go figuring out about the brick. Hold on, slow clap. Okay, this is how I figured out how to skin you. Okay? So we understand how smart are you right now. Get back over there and start peeing on people. That's okay. That's cute. Oh, the monkey peed on me. Throwing bricks.
That's terrible. Oh, I shouldn't be laughing about them. I'm laughing at your monkeys, not the tragedy.
I mean, you know what? You're protected. Great. You're protected until you do something foul, right?
That seemed very calculated for a monkey.
Yeah, I mean, for anybody. Yeah. You're protected until you bite me,
Well, we have one last story.
All right.
This isn't really paranormal.
Paranormal?
Yeah, this isn't paranormal. This is more of a public service message. This is from Fresno, California. This is about a man who was house sitting for his parents. He was in his parents' house and they were gone.
Is that what he calls it?
And he decided that he was going to use a blowtorch to kill some spiders in the house. Kill it with fire.
Kill it with fire.
And set the house on fire.
Wow.
And the firefighters, 29 firefighters responded to the fire. They were able to keep the bulk of the damage to the garage.
Yeah.
Which is great. But it was like a gated community, 4,000 square foot home, but he was trying to kill spiders with a blowtorch.
Yeah.
And almost burned the whole house down.
Absolutely insane.
All those times that we were like, kill it with fire.
Oh, yeah.
Don't really kill it with fire unless you're outside.
Yeah, no, that is insane. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And you know what? Before you end officially the news, I want to talk about this thing on Mars.
Okay.
Went back and forth with the story because it seemed like a story and then it seemed like a non-story.
Right.
Because if you're not familiar with it, right now, one of the satellites that are watching Mars, as always, has seen this plumage, this plume of smoke that looked like it's coming from one of the volcanoes, but it's like a 5 million or year-old dormant volcano, and they're adamant. They're like, look, that thing's dormant. Even though it looks like it's smoke coming from that's not what it is.
Right.
And if you look at year after year photography from Mars, you're going to see this similar
right. I think there
ice,
was
water,
some kind of ice
whatever
thing or something. Yeah.
So that was 3 days ago, but now the story's kind of coming back around. I mean, this goes back a week, this story, and this was right after our last episode. And I've watched it closely. In fact, it was one of the first stories I put into the mix, and then I pulled it out because I was like, you know what? There's an explanation. We looked into it, and it was like I went to my actual scientific places, my scientific sources,
right?
Rather than my other sources. And my scientific sources were all over it. They were like, look, this is what this is, but now that's kind of it's kind of going away a little bit, and there are some conspiracy theories starting to revolve around it because it's still there.
Right.
And it still looks very strange. And it is coming from this section where there's like 3 volcanoes. But regardless, it's a very odd looking smoke or plume, whatever you want to call it.
I mean, it's distinctive enough you can see it very plainly.
Very distinctive. And I just wanted to mention it just so I felt I would be remiss not to say something about it.
Right.
But the reason that we haven't went full boat story on it is when there's an explanation for something, whether we completely agree with it or not, we would rather err on the side of caution and not be caught up in hoopla. So there are conspiracy theories about it, but it does look like there's a plausible explanation for it.
Right. But of course, if the story evolves into something else, then, we'll pick it up on, the next show or the next show. Right.
And I just wanted to mention that, but thank you for the news.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, that was some good news and had a little bit of everything in there. I noticed that I doodle sometimes, when you're telling your stories and stuff.
Yes, I do that too.
And so I actually noticed I had made like 3 swastikas when you were talking about the stories there. So we're going to have to destroy this piece of paper.
Okay, we'll make you a new one.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just like sometimes you just don't realize what you're doing. I would hate for somebody to come in like right now and be like, oh, wow, but hey, for things that are a lot nicer than Nazis, you need to go to ParanormalSideshow.com. That's your address for everything not Nazi. Facebook.com/ParanormalSideshow. No Nazis there. Well, you know what? I take that back. Just not on our page. On the Twitter, it's at Sideshow97. Let's go back to Halloween on this. On Instagram, Haunt Halloween Damage. John and Stacey Edwards on Patreon.com. It's /ParanormalSideshow. And as my sexy, vivacious woman said earlier, we need to look at the levels there so you get a treat and you don't get no tricks, because we got a whole bag of tricks and it's got your name written all over it. Also, eventually you will see the Till Death book, and that should be tentatively at a date I can't tell you about. So it's really cool, but I hope you guys have the happiest of Halloweens. I hope you're listening to us on Halloween.
Yes.
And I hope that you see a ghost. I hope that you see several little ghosties having a good time and trick-or-treating and all that stuff. And you know what? If you are one of those little trick-or-treaters, you're probably too young to be listening to this show, but I'm not going to tell if you don't. For my lovely wife, Stacy, my name is John. We love you and happy Halloween.
Good night.
Hey guys, if you like what you've heard, please check out ParanormalSideshow.com and follow the links for our weekly podcast. Also, become a sideshow off yourself and pick one of our killer levels on our Patreon to help support the channel and help keep us bringing you bigger and better content. So until next week, for my lovely wife Stacy, I'm John Edwards. So long and
stay strange.